We were living in a house with a 7-acre orchard, abandoned old orchard in the backyard, and we wanted something to do with the fruit, so we made cider. And we just did it 1 or 2 barrels a year for 25 years. When I retired from Cornell, we got our farm winery license, and we started selling some of the cider that we were making.
I have been involved for 16 years on a very part-time basis. So I was sort of doing the farmers market for a long time, and I've been kind of consulting. I came here full-time in May of 2021.
This farm is if we were a vineyard or a winery, we would be the AVA is Cayuga Lake, West Cayuga Lake. We've been growing apples for 30 some years. We've got a fabulous soil on this farm. It's mostly honey oil, which is the New York State soil. Most people don't know we have a New York State soil, but we do. It's what's called a glacial till soil. That's what dropped out of the glaciers as they receded. And the Finger Lakes were carved by glaciers in the last ice age. It's just a fabulous soil. You can grow anything on this soil. One of the tremendous advantages New York has as a cider region is that a number of excellent cider varieties are native to New York, were selected. Some examples: Golden Russet, Northern Spy, Newtown Pippin, Aesopus Spitzenberg. Those are 4 of the best heirloom cider varieties, and they all originated in New York State. When people ask me, what are your favorite apples, my usual answer is, what are your favorite kids? Which of your children do you love the most?
Choose?
We grow 135 apple varieties.
Yes.
Which is, I don't know if I would do that again if we were, because it's a little crazy.
For better, for worse.
Yeah, from a management perspective, it's a bit, but it means we've just got a wonderful palette of fruit flavors and textures and acidity and tannins that our head cider maker, Chris Negronita, really has a lot of good stuff to work with. We have opportunities for blending that are really pretty unusual in the cider market. So.
Slate Stone, I like. It often ends up at our dinner table when we're having big family meals.
It's a blend. Most years it has up to a dozen different apples in it, but it's very tart, kind of moderately aromatic. It just has wonderful textures. It's a really long finish and very complex on the palate.
I'm Garrett. I run the Finger Lake Cider House here on Cayuga Lake, and we've been farming here for about 15 years now. It started out as 2 people kind of bootstrapping it 15 years ago. My brother has been working with us for the last 10 years, and he's the cider maker. And it's just evolved one year after another as we gain a little more knowledge, a little more fruit, a little more skill set in making cider, and each year has gotten a little bigger, and we're sort of leveling out right now. It was started just with the idea that we wanted to interact with the world and make a positive impact on the environment. It's like do more good instead of just do less harm. And so we've been doing an organic, diversified, mixed farming operation since the beginning, which involves raising fruit trees and raising annual produce and livestock and kind of intermingling all of those things. I think the benefit of like capital O organic farming is that it gives you a set of criteria that you adhere to. Because there's so many difficult things that happen in a farming year with weather and with economics and just business decisions, it's very easy to kind of slip in maybe your ethos or your desired practices on a farm when you have a standard that you have to uphold. So we built a tasting room in 2014. We'd been farming maybe 7 or 8 years prior to that, very quietly with just a couple people on the farm. No public was able to visit here, and so it was a huge turning point, and a decision that we probably didn't realize the ramifications of at the time of doing it. But cider making is such a niche process, and that it requires a lot of direct communication with the public and education and experience. So we wanted to create a spot where people could come, and we could have direct connection. But from there, it's turned into this sort of a little bit life of its own hospitality venue where we're able to connect people with more parts of the agriculture or food experiences. Yeah, so we started making champagne method ciders, I guess right from the beginning, in our first vintage. We learned to do it from Autumn and Ezra over at Eve's Cidery. That's a technique they were using, and it was just really appealing. It's also kind of low tech, so a startup bootstrapping business, it's a good fit. It's a high quality product that requires a lot of labor and not a lot of technology.
My wife, Autumn, started Eve's Cidery along with our partner, James. When Autumn was like 21 years old, she was looking for a farm job on top of the waitressing job that she had. And she got a job at a U-Pick orchard. She read an article about this guy, Steve Wood, who had gone to England and discovered basically the apple equivalent of wine grapes. That is, that there's specific apple varieties that are grown specifically for cider. She went to England, took a class, short course on cider making, visited cideries in England, and launched Eve's Cidery like 22 years ago. When I first became involved in Eve's, I was working as a lawyer, and met Autumn through our mothers and began like helping out with the cidery. In the beginning, I like continued to practice and like do some of the work. After we got together, I gradually kind of became more involved at Eve's. Around 7 or 8 years ago, flowed into working full time. We have a location which is about 20 miles south of Seneca and Cayuga lakes. I don't think that we're in the pathway of the prevailing winds or whatever to benefit from that lake effect. I think what's unique about our location is the kind of the mountainous terrain and the cold winters and the crisp, cold nights in the autumn, which support the development of acidity in ripening apples. Our farm is very special to us because we work on it like all the time. All the cider that we make comes from the fruit that we grow or wild forage. And so how we treat the land is like very important to us. We're NOFA certified organic. We don't actually use that really as a selling point because I'm not sure if it matters to a lot of people, but it matters to us. Eve's Cidery is really like a family effort. We're small. It's basically Autumn and I. I think one really cool aspect of Eve's Cidery is that we make the label art ourselves. Our kids are making most of the label art now. So for example, the home farm, my daughter made the label for that, which is a jellyfish with our farm on top of it. You should check it out. Being a cider producer in the Finger Lakes has begun to have a certain like panache or reputation because of the quality of some of the growers in the Finger Lakes, some of the cider producers, their vision that have established sort of a Finger Lakes brand of cider.
They're ciders that are actually expressing the real fruit that's in the cider, and there's pride and honor in showcasing that fruit.
There's a wine shop in town that I really love going to, and they're always talking about, we have really great wines that come out of the Finger Lakes, and we have the best ciders in the world. And they, I just walk in and they're sort of telling customers that, and that makes me feel like, oh wow, that's really cool. And I feel really proud that other people feel like that some of the best ciders in the world are coming out of a little region that we live in. If I had to pick where I'd want to be in the Finger Lakes again, or in the U.S. again, I would choose the Finger Lakes for sure for making cider.
I think one of the things that also makes this farm, I don't know if it makes it unique, but interesting, is that it is still a family-run farm. And although we have other people who work here that aren't in the family, like, we got mom and dad and daughter right here. Mom's off camera, but she's here. And she's still involved. And the employees that we have been here for a long time. Their babies come and
their dogs.
And their dogs. And so it's very much, it's very familial. And I think that is part of what makes it special here.
We are never the best we can be in any year, so there's always like new things to learn, especially when you're growing apples and making cider.
This is just 1 year along the way, and I wouldn't have expected to be where we are now, and that 15 years from now, I hope it's the same way. We're in some new cool places.
The other thing, I would just encourage people to come on up and visit.
Yeah.
We love to have people come see what we do.
Mm-hmm.